So you all know that I love doing my kitchen gadget reviews, and today we're going to be doing a review on the Miomat soy and nut milk maker. I know that we have done something similar to this before. To Miomat's credit, they actually reached out to me to do the sponsorship, and they said, Christina, we know that you do a lot of reviews of nut milk makers, soy milk makers, so you know what's good, what's not. We would like to send you our product and we would like you to do a review on it because you know what you're talking about. I'm gonna do my best today. I'm gonna tell you all everything. I've spent a good 2 months with it now, so I've made all different kinds of things, like all different kinds of nut milks. It was my first time making tiger nut milk, which was crazy. It was my first time making soups in one of these machines as well. So I'll tell you my experience about that. So first off, to anybody new to kind of soy nut milk makers of this kind, there's basically two different types out on the markets today. The first kind of bigger type of soy nut milk maker is more of maybe like a professional series. It's a lot more expensive, 500 to 600 pounds, I would say. Some filter out the nut milk, some don't. Some have different kinds of cleaning options. But they're also bigger as well. So you'll have those types of soy milk makers. And then you'll have something like this, where it's like a pitcher format. Essentially what these types of machines and the bigger types of nut plant milk machines do is that they have an ability to blend and heat at the same time. And the genius of it really lies in the programming, because for something like a nut milk, for something like a soy milk, for something like a soup, you have to know when to blend, how long to blend it, when to start heating it, when to stop heating it, when to let the ingredients absorb some of the moisture and then the heat, and then when to start blending again. So there's a lot of different layers to this, and really the genius is definitely in the programming. Each of these machines, they tweak it. It's a little bit different. It has little features and little bits that I would prefer over other bits, and so we'll go into that. But first off, I would just like to show you how this machine works first. Okay, so now that you know how it works, you can see that it's a fully automated machine. Short of cleaning, everything is pre-programmed for you. So what I thought I would do today is pretty much the classic. So I'm going to go ahead and talk about what is unique about Miomat and how can they differentiate themselves, because there's quite a few of these types of machines out on the market. The second thing that I'm going to go into is any issues that I've had, if at all, or just some considerations that you might want to consider when you're buying a machine like this. I'll kind of go in and talk about who this machine I think is for, and then finally we'll talk about details of the giveaway, okay? So first up, how does Miomat differentiate themselves? What did I find unique and good about this? I actually wanted to talk about their recipe booklet first because it made that market of a difference in my mind when you see a lot of, whether it's big companies or like small companies writing this, sometimes the booklet is all over the place, and sometimes you know that they maybe like copy and pasted it from somewhere. Like it feels kind of like that. When you're reading through this booklet, you know that the company spent a lot of time on it. Like, you know that there's a person that was writing this, and it kind of feels like they were writing it for a family or for a friend. Because sometimes like there'll be like little illustrations, there'll be like little tips, little hacks, like, you know, like, would you like to have your milk extended longer and have a longer shelf life? Just add like a pinch of salt here. Or like sometimes they'll be like, oh, are you having trouble, you know, like cleaning this bit? We find that adding a little bit of baking soda and then blending that like really helps there. There's just all these like little tips and hacks. And I think what it really shows, and kind of how detailed it is that the makers, they really tested this machine out themselves. Like they know the little tidbits, like, do you want the milk to be a little bit thicker? Do you want the milk to be a little bit thinner? They actually have a section that shows you what to do with the leftover pulp that you have after you make your nut and your cereal milks. So really it's from A to Z. They talk about, you know, food waste and like using that up, you know, as flour for like cookies, for baked goods, for, you know, other types of things. Another thing that I really enjoy is like, I'm always telling people like, you need to learn how to fish. Like, don't just know specific recipes, but like really know how to make something. And so within each section of whether it's like nut milks, cereal milks, like different kinds of smoothies, they have the first page that shows you how to make it without a recipe. So like, for example, for cereal milk, they'll say like, take 1 measuring cup of your cereal, whether it be quinoa, amaranth, oats, and then just fill it up to the line that's inside your machine. So that's really easy to do, and it enables you to like, you know, if you wanted to mix grades, if you wanted to do half amaranth, half sorghum, you could totally do that. So let me go to the raw milk section. So raw milk, so the ones that you don't really cook, take up to 3 measuring cups of nuts or seeds and then fill it up to that line. So even if you didn't have a recipe book in front of you, as long as you kind of remember like, okay, well, like 3 cups, up to 3 cups for nuts, 1 cup for cereal, you'll just know how to make it, and you'll know how to, you know, create and design your own recipes. So I think that that's quite cool. I think that's quite unique. Again, it goes back to like the familial feel of this. If you go and read some of their reviews on Amazon, what people actually say is like, when they're troubleshooting or if they have any issues, when they email the company, they get that email really quickly back. Like, there is somebody that is working at this company and making sure that everything is okay. And this is in kind of contrast to, you know, a lot of these machines, they are made in foreign countries. So, you know, in Taiwan, in China, even like some of the bigger machines, when you're dealing with like larger companies, the communication is not as good. It could be either language, or it could just be that they're so big that you have to wait days before you find out like, okay, what is wrong with my machine? So what else is different about this machine? If you remember the first kind of pitcher type soy milk machine that I tried out before, oh my gosh, the motor was so loud. So if you were working in the kitchen and like the program suddenly it starts up and then it stops and it starts up and it stops, it would really be scary because it's so loud. With the Miomat, I'll say the sound is muted. So they have some kind of way to just like mute the sound in the motor so that, I mean, it still blends, so you know that it's blending, but it does not startle you. It is not really that loud at all. So it's a muted sound. I think along the same lines is just build quality. Like with other machines, like you can find this machine, you know, much cheaper, something very similar. This retails for 199 pounds, which is, it's market, but it's probably on the higher end of things. And I think one of the reasons for that is just, along with the sound and, you know, the muted motor, it's just a better build quality. With my old pitcher style soy milk maker, the top just kind of just like goes and fits onto this thing, but the Miomat has kind of like this rubber bit on the side as well, and it kind of just gently goes in, but when it goes in, you feel that everything is tight and everything is secure, and you know, there's like a good weight to it. So the second big thing that I really didn't like about my old machine was where the cords were located. So if you remember, I think in my old machine, the cord like attachment was located on this top grinding unit. And this top bit is really the bit that you really need to wash, because it's where the heating unit is, it is where the blade is. So when you have it over the sink, it is really dangerous. Like I was always worried about getting water into the electrical bits. This thing, it has the electrical bits here, it has the electrical bits here. And there are electrical bits here, but it's on the underside, so it's a lot easier to clean and wash without getting water in it. In addition, if you remember my old machine, there were heating rods that were throughout the machine, and these heating rods, I think that they can measure the temperature, but they also heat up as well. And so what would happen when I was making soy milk was that it would crust around these rods, and it would be really hard to clean because you still have the blade, you still have the rods in between, you have to, you know, like take the little toothbrush scrub and scrub all over. So it was really hard to clean. So I want to talk about this cylinder grinder thing as well, because I didn't have this in my old machine as well. So I think what this does is, if you want a finer grind to things, so usually for any of the nut milks, cereal milks, for I think it was the soup, like the finely, what was it? Creamy soup. You would have this grinding attachment for. And I think it makes a difference in that there's a finer grind, so that when you have your nut milks or your soy milks, that any particles in it will be a finer grind. I think also why I like this grinding attachment is you can just let this unit dry on the table like that with this grinding unit attached. Because if you don't have it, what I find is that you have to lay down a towel, because if you lay it down like this, the blade from this unit just kind of it can cut the table, it can cut whatever surface that you're putting it on. So you have to be, you know, quite careful about that. And then obviously some of the additional stuff is that, you know, units like this, it definitely saves on space. It's very mobile, so if you needed to put it away, you can put it away. If you're going away for the weekend and you wanted, you know, nut milk, you could bring this along with you. So there's always that. Price-wise, I mean, compared to some of the bigger, more automatic machines that, you know, do the cleaning, maybe some of them do the straining out of the pulp for you, those are, you know, $500-600, £500-600. So quite different on the price scale of things. And then also that I wanted to mention, there's a 2-year warranty on the Miomat. So not from misuse, but if there's any issue with the unit itself. So that's quite nice, because I'm not sure if all of these machines have that kind of warranty for it. And either way, it is still an investment, you know, $200, £200. So it's good to have that warranty there. Okay, so now let's move on to any of the issues that I had, if at all. And a lot of these are just really small things, but I really wanted to do the company proud. Like, they wanted me to test it out. I'm going to test it out for them. So first up, the machine performed really well. Like, all of the milks and nut milks, like, they came out really well. I tested tiger nuts. Anybody who's seen them before, I soaked them overnight and they were still really, very, very hard. So I tested them out on this machine and it actually blended quite well. There was maybe like one bigger chunk in there, but I wanted to use tiger milk or tiger nuts because I knew that they were really hearty, and I wanted to see how this blended, and it did really well, and it made really like perfect flour after you strained out everything. It made really good flour. In testing soy milk, I mean, with these types of machines, you have to test out soy milk because soy requires cooking, and it requires blending, cooking, a little bit of weight, blending, cooking, weight. It is really quite a science to get the soy milk creamy if you didn't want to strain it. So that includes several different things here. So I found that, and it's personal preference, but with soy milk anyways, it does tend to get really gritty. There's very few machines where you can just not strain it and then have it taste still quite creamy. And I found that with this, the grinding attachment got the soy quite fine, but the soy itself, if you didn't strain it, was still a bit gritty. And so Miomat provides this for straining out all of your milks. I think it may work for maybe some of like your nut milks, or if you're okay with having, you know, some particles in your milk, which I definitely am. But for something like soy, where this machine grinds it quite finely, this thing was definitely not going to do. It definitely, it can strain out stuff, but you're going to be left with a more kind of a heavier type of milk as well. What I would recommend is actually just getting one of these like nut milk bags. They're fairly inexpensive. If you don't know, the way that it works is it's sold by microns. So actually the smaller the micron, the finer the bag actually is. So if you are someone that, you know, really likes their milks very strained out, like you don't want any little bits in there, you're going to want to find a bag with a very small number for microns. Of course, once you strain it out, I mean, that's really good fiber. So definitely, you know, use the recipe book and use and see what you can do with the scraps afterwards. Because like for things like almond flour, tiger nut flour, those things are really expensive at the grocery store. Take advantage of your nut milk maker and just like keep all of those things afterwards and use it in, you know, baked recipes, or like whenever you need bulk, whenever you need flour, use it for that. Just got really bright again, hold on. I told you that I also, it was my first time making soup on this machine. So I actually made creamy soup and then I made chunky soup, the same soup, but I used different things for it. So for the creamy soup, it performed exceptionally well because I was making potato leek soup, and I purposely cut the potatoes into like quite big chunks just to see if it would blend everything. Everything was creamy, everything was really, really good. With the creamy soup though, I did find that the bottom actually burned a little bit, and I think somebody had talked about this maybe online. It's just a matter of finding the right combination, like maybe not overloading this with too many vegetables. They do have a couple of recipes, like soup recipes in the book. So I would say kind of follow how much, you know, how much corn they're putting in for the corn soup, or how much, you know, potatoes they're putting into their sweet potato soup, and just follow that amount when you're adding this in. So the second big thing that I would say is a suggestion, there's nothing wrong with it, but it's a suggestion, is on the electrical unit bit on the pitcher, they actually have like a plastic covering over it, so that even if you were to maybe get some water on this, it's not going to be an issue because there's that cover. Only when you put the top part on do the electrical parts meet. I wish that they would just do that for all parts of the outlet. Like if they had like a plastic covering here and a plastic covering here, you know? I know that you're not really supposed to wash the outside of the pitcher, you're just supposed to wipe it, but just for like safety wise and for you know, a peace of mind, is if they just had a cover, like, because they did it on this one. So if they just did it on all three, it would just be like you could just clean it and not be overly worried. And so that would be kind of my suggestion. Other things really just to look out for, and these are not totally issues, but just to look out for, is when you're cleaning, I mean, the blade is quite sharp. When you're cleaning this, there are particular areas of this metal piece that get stuck on, especially if you're making something like soy milk, where the beans kind of get stuck on and crust, is like right under here, which is right next to the blade. And I have sometimes, because I'm trying to scrub that part, you know, quite fervently, slightly slipped a bit. So these are just things that, I mean, obviously it's part of the unit, every unit is like that, but you just have to kind of be careful with that. I would definitely recommend that when you are done cleaning this bit, whether you use this cylinder grinder bit or not, just to put this back on so that it's easy to, you know, put it onto the table. It doesn't cut anything, and anybody that's grabbing it, that's not going to be an issue for anyone. Other things to consider. So in this machine, you have to make a set amount of soup, or you have to put in a set amount of liquid. And that is anywhere between 1,100 milliliters and 1,300 milliliters. So right around 4 to 5 cups. I don't imagine that's really an issue for anyone, because when you're making nut milks, you want to make, you know, more, and then you'll pour it into a pitcher. But I don't know, like maybe for a larger family or for like a really small family, just know that you have to make a certain amount, and that's around, you know, 4 to 5 cups. So that is one thing. And if you wanted to make less, I don't know how it works, because it says that you need to be putting in, the liquid needs to be between 1,100 and 1,300 milliliters. So I would imagine that's a set amount to have the machine function properly. So that's something to consider. The last thing is that when you are doing heated programs, so they'll mention this in the book, but when you're doing programs that require heat, like soy milk, probably like your creamy, any kinds of soups or whatnot, you need to wait between 20 minutes and an hour for this unit to cool down before you can work it again. So I've heard of some people making like lots of nut milks or lots of like plant-based milks, and they do it one after the other. This one, you're going to have to wait. You're gonna have to wait a little bit for it to cool down before you start making it again. And you know, not a total big deal, but if you're somebody that, you know, likes to make a lot of milk over and over again, that's going to be a thing. Let's talk about who this machine is for. Okay, I think that this machine is for someone who, like me, needs to save space. Like, you have limited counter space. You appreciate that this unit is portable, so you can put it away. You can, you know, bring it to friends and make nut milk there. Saving space, saving money as well. I mean, it's not necessarily an inexpensive unit, but it's not going to be as expensive as your, like, you know, 500-600 pound units that they do take up a lot of room. They have, you know, a lot more fancy features. But if you're just someone that like wants something that, you know, still has features, but you don't need everything to be so fancy, then this is gonna be a machine for you. Kind of secondly is like, if you don't mind cleaning your machine. I would say like some of the bigger machines, it's true, it's much easier to clean because they have the fully automatic function. I barely have to touch anything. For this one though, like if you don't mind it, it requires you to have a scrub brush. You have to be careful, but like scrub brush, you have to wait until it probably cools a little bit. But the best time to clean this unit, I find, is literally kind of a couple minutes after you finish making it. You want to be scrubbing this thing really quickly. It's very much like a blender, where like the sooner that you deal with it, the easier it is to clean. But if you take this out, you leave this on the counter, it starts drying out, especially if you're making soups or like bean soups or whatnot. It will start crusting, and then it will start making your life miserable. And you know, then you might have to soak it again. This does have a cleaning function to it, but I kind of find that soaking does the same, and or if you can clean it very soon after you take it out, yeah, I find that the cleaning function is just a little bit like whooshing water around. I'm not exactly sure for the tough cases, like stuck on, you know, soup. Like once it's dried, you just have to soak it, or it just takes time. So yeah, it's really, it's for the portable, space-saving person that does not mind cleaning. This is going to be a good machine. So my overall impression is that the Miomat is definitely a lot more of a quality machine than the ones that I've used before. It feels like it's better. There's a better hand feel to it. You know, the sound, everything is like muted. It's like a more luxurious kind of pitcher type soy milk maker machine. So now it's time for a giveaway. So thank you to Miomat for agreeing to this. We're gonna give one Miomat to a lucky viewer. I believe, I'll put the details down below, but they have units for the US, they have units for the UK, Canada as well. So yeah, so I'll put all of that information below. What I need you to do is leave a comment down below telling me, I don't know, anything, telling me what you intend to make with this machine. Miomat has said that if you do have social media, we would love for you to follow them, follow me. It's always, you know, great to spread the word around. But if you don't have social media, then obviously just a comment will do. One thing I'll say about having, you know, an Instagram or having a Twitter or something like that is I can contact you much easier that way. I can just DM you. But if you don't have one of those, then when you leave your comment, you're also going to have to leave a way for me to contact you. So maybe an email or something like that, because otherwise I can't get a hold of you if you do win. So again, thank you so much to Miomat for sponsoring this segment. I know as a creator, we always appreciate when companies do their homework, do their research, and, you know, find the creator and also are able to sponsor our segments as well. It really keeps everything going. So yeah, thank you so much to them. I hope you all enjoyed, and I will see you all again next time. All right, bye.